Ladies and gentlemen, a recipient of the Padma Vibhushana, we are indeed thankful to Honorable Mr. Justice M.N. Venkachalaya for delivering that inaugural address. Introductory lecture. Thank you, my Lord. Now I request Honorable the Chief Justice of India to kindly deliver the address. Ladies and gentlemen, Justice T.S. Thakur, designated as Senior Advocate in 1990, appointed as the Additional Judge of the High Court of Jammu Kashmir in 1994. His Lordship was appointed as Acting Chief Justice of Delhi High Court in 2008 and took over as Chief Justice of High Court of Punjab and Haryana in 2008. He became the Chief Justice of India in December 2015. Please put your hands together while I request His Lordship to address the audience.
A very esteemed, very respected, and if I may say so, beloved former Chief Justice of India, Justice M.N. Venkachalaya, my esteemed brother judges on the dais, Justice Kher and Justice Deepak Mishra, Shri Ravi Shankar Prasad ji, Minister for Law and Justice, Attorney General Mr. Mukul Rohatgi, my brother Justice Bobde, my other brother judges, Chief Justices from different high courts, judges of different high courts, judicial officers, senior advocates, distinguished jurists who have been felicitated today, members of the bar, ladies and gentlemen. Justice Venkachalaya's last line that he spoke in this very erudite and scholarly lecture that he delivered was that the best way to exercise a right is, or the power is, that it is recognized but not exercised. I am content with that statement in the sense that I may have the right to speak, but I will not exercise that right, looking to the boredom that I can see on your faces. All that I can say is that I was sitting very close to Justice Venkachalaya. I was trying to closely follow the depth of the thoughts that he shared with us. And it will require not just reading of the lecture as he has done for us, but a very, very close and maybe repeated reading of that lecture to understand its content. Each sentence, each word, I can assure you that he has read out from his lecture is equivalent to a pearl of wisdom, if I may say so. And you will require time, you will require effort to absorb it. I will have this lecture published. Eventually it may be published, the series maybe after a few years the lectures will all be published. But even before that, this lecture will be published and circulated for the benefit of a larger readership. For a number of years we had been celebrating this day as Law Day. It used to be a small function in the Supreme Court lawns where the Bar Association would invite the judges of the Supreme Court and the Chief Justice, and the Law Minister would also grace the occasion. Some speeches would be delivered, and that used to be the end of the celebration. But what has made a great difference this time is a decision taken by the government that this day should be celebrated not just as a law day but as Constitution Day. I compliment the government for that decision, because it upgrades the level of celebration that we have been having in the past. One may ask why celebrate the Constitution? After all, we are not the only constitutional democracy in the world. There are any number of other countries where they have constitution, and what is so great about having a constitution which we ought to celebrate? The answer lies in your understanding of history. If you look back, India with more than 500 princely states, each one with its own territory, its own laws, each one claiming to be independent of the other, some of them even fighting with each other over territories and water and all, would have re-emerged in that form if the British had left, and if the constitution framers and the forefathers had not been able to unify the country into one nation. The importance of the Constitution, in my opinion, lies in the fact that it has unified a continent and created a nation or a country out of it. That is the most important dimension of this great document, this great exercise. I would say that we celebrate Constitution Day because we celebrate the sovereignty that it gives to our country. We celebrate Constitution Day because the Constitution guarantees democracy. We celebrate Constitution Day because it guarantees fundamental rights to the people of this country. We celebrate Constitution Day because it provides for an independent judiciary that will protect the rights of the people. We celebrate Constitution Day because it creates India into a secular, inclusive society. We celebrate Constitution Day because of the equality it ensures, regardless of caste, creed and color. And these are the reasons for which we celebrate this great event, this great document, and that is such a great sense of, that gives such a great sense of security to each one of us, and which guarantees not only security of the present but of future generations as well. These celebrations this year have been on a slightly larger scale. I only hope that this spirit continues in the years to come. The lecture series has started. This will, I'm sure, help students of law, members of the bar, judges, contemplate, deliberate on issues of greater importance that concern the system and its survival in times to come. I compliment on this occasion the distinguished legal luminaries who have been felicitated today. Constitution of India has been interpreted. The interpretations have come not from judges alone. I think the interpretations that have made this document a dynamic document have come from the members of the bar who appeared in those cases. So any celebration without recognizing the contribution that the great legendary legal luminaries that have been made in the making of the constitutional law or the development of constitutional law in this country would be incomplete. That is how, and that is precisely why we thought that this is an appropriate occasion to recognize the contribution of those of the luminaries who are still with us and whom we can recognize and whose contribution we can acknowledge. We also today released a monumental book, a work of great importance for the Indian judiciary, And for that I thank Justice Bobde and his team. He has named each one of the contributors. He has named from a law researcher attached to that team to the editorial board, each one who contributed to the development of that work and made it possible for me to release it today. This book, I'm sure, may not be the last word on this subject, but it may certainly inspire future works, because this opens up an area which hitherto had remained uncharted. I remember when Justice Bobde spoke to me about this project and also told me that the committee is almost defunct, the first thing I did was I invited our leaders of the bar. Justice Mr. Nariman was there, Mr. Venugopal, and nearly 20 other lawyers, the best of lawyers, the talent that we have at the bar, were invited for a discussion whether we should really attempt this kind of a work. Is it advisable to do so? As Justice Bobde mentioned, there were some people who said that, who were skeptical about the feasibility of such a project and how far we can carry it off, pull it off, and some thought that this may eventually turn out to be nothing more than a coffee table book. But some of the voices really encouraged us, as Justice Bobde rightly mentioned. They said, regardless of what it is, you must go ahead and make an attempt. But I can say with confidence that once the dummy was ready and was sent to Mr. Nariman, who was one of the supporters of this project, he sent a few lines in appreciation of the kind of work which pushed us further to make it sure that it is released today. Thank you very much, Justice Bobde, for this great work. I'm sure the entire judicial fraternity will remain beholden to you. You have thanked your team, but I thank you on behalf of the entire fraternity, the judiciary in this country, for giving to us and the entire judiciary this great work, which will give to all those who want to know about the evolution of judicial institutions an idea as to how and through what travails and tribulations the entire system has passed. I also compliment the Supreme Court Research Center for compiling an annual report which earlier used to be only an annual report for the Supreme Court, but this time we thought that it will be a good idea to compile the entire information about the kind of work that has been done all over the country, and the information relates not only to the performance of the high courts but also the district courts. The research center did an excellent job. Mr. Maithani and his team worked very hard, and despite very tight timelines, the work was accomplished. I am extremely grateful to them for making this possible. It may set the standards very high, but I am sure we have enough human resource and enough talent in the Supreme Court registry that they can keep it up for the future also. I can assure you that the best part of this evening and the celebration has yet to come. We have, for your entertainment in the true sense, celebration in the true sense, picked up some of the finest cultural items from the West Zone. We requested the Chief Justices of Bombay, Gujarat and Rajasthan to present a spectacle that will perhaps linger on for a long, long time in your memory. They are present here. I thank them for the effort that they have made, and I'm sure you will like it. I had a glimpse of it when I went to Gujarat in connection with a inaugural function. I was so fascinated by the kind of diversity in folk dances and music that I thought that if this can be taken to Delhi, you will have the advantage of enjoying it. It will come, I think, just a few minutes after Justice Deepak Mishra concludes the proceedings. I once again congratulate all of you and thank you for being here, especially our former judges who have been very kind to respond to our invitations, and to each one of our team who has made this event possible. Thank you and Jai Hind.
Thank you.